Alright, so I'm going to do something really quick to illustrate Objective-C again. We'll just go to a URL and parse the URL that comes back, the internet request that comes back, and we're going to actually read the headlines from CNN. That's what we're going to do. So you click on File, you're in Xcode, you click on File, New Project. We're going to create this as a C++, as an Objective-C project. You're just seeing a portion of the screen, but it's the relevant portion. You go to Mac OS X. Application, and then in the patterns that you see there, you want to click on Command Line Tool. Okay, that's the basic Objective-C way of doing things. Then you click Next. You give it a name, CNN Reader. That's just my identifier. I use automatic reference counting, which has to do with memory management. I'll click Next. And we'll be in good shape to start creating the project. So I'll just hit create here. I'll create a folder where this can go. I'll just create it in a for example here. I'll just create it here. I'll create a new folder. Call it CNN RSS Reader. Create. And then we're ready to go. This is just going to have a main, okay, a main program here, and the main.m. I'm just going to do it there, just to illustrate. This is just basically to illustrate Objective-C. Excuse me. So first, we're going to create a function here, or we'll just create it as a routine. That's fine. So in the auto release pool, okay, that's where your code goes for the most part. So what we're gonna do is set an object of type NSURL. NSURL. It's gonna be my URL, and that's gonna be your NSURL. A log. We're creating a new URL log, and then we're gonna end it with a string. So init with string, and we can give it, the URL for CNN. I got this from the web, actually, copying the actual URL for its RSS feed, and it's this one: http://rss.cnn.com/RSS, and this is the feed for the top stories. So it goes like this: CNN top stories.rss. You can basically put here any RSS URL. I just went to the CNN website, look at the RSS feeds, and just right click and copy link location in one of those RSS feeds. That's the URL that I got. Okay, then so we create a URL, which is basically an object wrapping this string, and then we create a request, which adds other parameters, a URL request. Okay, that's going to be my request, and that's going to be NSURL request, and then we initialize, we create one request by calling this method, request with URL, and then the URL that we had before, which is my URL. Then we have the request and we have the URL. Okay, we need a connection that's going to give us the data. So we're going to do this by doing NSData. Okay, it's going to be the raw data, binary data of this web page, which is the source code of this web page. And we'll call it, and then this data is coming from a URL connection. Okay, from a URL connection. And the URL connection is going to give us the data if we send a synchronous request. The request is what I have, my request, right? The returning response is going to be nil. We don't care about that object. And then the error, okay, is going to be nil as well. We don't care about that for now, for this example. You can Google this classes app and you'll see what they do. So that's the data. We have the binary data for the source code of the HTML page, of the XML page, which is this CNN RSS. Now we're going to turn it into a string so we can actually parse it. Page source is going to be an NS string, a log, right? So we're going to create a new string and we're going to init with data. Right, and the data is going to be this variable data that I had before, and the encoding is going to be, it's an NS string encoding, so I'm going to try NSUTF-8 string encoding. Perfect, that fits well. So we close that, semicolon, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have each line of this XML file be one string. Why? Because the line that contains the title actually has the word title in it. So I'm going to look for that. The actual line that contains the title has, let me see if I can show this to you really quickly. I'll go to CNN and I'll show you what I mean. So this is going to, see, no, I'm looking for the RSS feeds. So I'll just go RSS. Is that valid? Yes, perfect, that works. So here's the RSS, right? I'm going to go to top stories, and this is the URL that I copied. But if I click here, I'll see this nice formatted page. But if I right click and view the source, view page source, I'll see that this has a lot of lines, and most importantly, for each news, which is an item, right? This is an item. Where does the item end? It ends on this line. Okay, you'll be able to see it if I move my window a little bit more. But never mind. So it ends on that line. And one of these lines, namely this one, line 28, for example, has the word title in it, and this is the headline. Don't expect a GOP Shining Knight title. So it starts with the word title like this and ends with the word title like this, with a /. So we're going to try to detect that by putting each one of these lines in an array of strings, and then we're going to go through the array of strings looking for those that begin with title, and we're going to extract the word title. We're going to extract the title in there and just leave the headline. So let's do that. There, perhaps this is good. Okay, we go to Xcode. So we need an array, NS array. It's going to be the lines, okay, and that's going to be, the good thing is that with the string, which is the page source, now we can separate it on this string. There are many languages that have this function split, so we can split this string with the method component separated by string, and then we'll separate the strings on the new line character. So basically each line is going to be an element of the array. And then what we do is go for each line. So for NS string line, for each line in the array lines, this is a for loop that's very convenient in Objective-C. And then what we can do is if the line is not empty, right? And actually, if the line is greater than the word title, because we'll need lines that have more than 6 characters, right? Which is what title length is. So if the length of the line is more than the word title, more than 6, and the line, the first 6 characters of the line, okay, are equal. Equal to this, right? And the first 6 characters are equal to this. Then what we do is this. We create another string, really a temporary placeholder headline, because that's the headline. It's going to be in a string log init, and we're going to initialize it with this. Oh, not with data, with string line. Oops, I'm going to delete this. I mistyped a method, and that's why this came up like that. Okay, so the headline is going to be the line at this point, the line that I'm reading right now. I'm going to say that's the headline. But then what I do is headline is equal to line, and then I replace string by replacing, and then if you see the method, string by replacing occurrences of string. So I'm going to replace the occurrence of string title, right? Oops, title like that, with string nothing. Okay, so I'm going to basically remove the word title there. And then I'm going to say headline, and I'm going to replace the end title. So it's going to be whatever I had before, string by replacing occurrence of string, and then I'm going to say this thing, this guy, I'm going to replace the end title with string nothing. Oops. With string nothing. Close, and then I'm just gonna, NSLog that headline so I can print it. NSLog this headline. That's all this is going to do. And we'll test it, run it, and you'll see the headlines for CNN. I'll do that right now. And the build succeeded. This is going to run, and it's a really fast video. I apologize for that, but it's going to illustrate a quick technique, a quick way of doing things here. So we're going to look at the debugging window here. I'm going to just change the size of this a little bit, just so you can see the debug window, which is below. Yeah. Okay, so you can see right there, you can start seeing all the headlines. CNN.com, Romney back out, don't expect a GOP shining night, Forum Romney tosses economic plan, Karzai condemns, etc., etc. These are the headlines, and we saw that they match what the headlines are, well, of course in our source, but in our CNN website. You can see Romney back out, front new poll, don't expect GOP shining night. You see the same headlines. That concludes